For many young men today, there is a quiet tension that is rarely spoken about openly. On one side, there is energy, ambition, competition, drive, a desire to build something, to test yourself, to become capable. On the other side, there is a message that often sounds like this: that energy is dangerous, that ambition is suspicious, that masculinity itself might be a problem. And when those two forces collide inside a man, confusion begins to grow because the energy is still there. The question is simply, what do you do with it? The energy inside men. Most men recognize a certain kind of inner momentum. It's difficult to describe, but you feel it early in life. You want to compete, you want to improve, you want to master something. Sometimes that energy feels restless, sometimes it feels aggressive, sometimes it simply feels like intensity. And for many men, that intensity becomes a source of guilt. They start wondering if something is wrong with them. But psychologically, that energy is not the problem. The problem is what happens when that energy has no direction. Energy without discipline becomes chaos. Energy with discipline becomes power. Many young men today feel a strange kind of confusion. Inside them is energy, ambition, drive, a desire to compete and prove themselves. But at the same time, culture sometimes tells them that these traits are dangerous. So a man begins to question himself. Should I suppress this? But suppressing masculine energy doesn't solve the problem. Energy doesn't disappear. It only finds another outlet. Sometimes it becomes anger, sometimes resentment, sometimes apathy. The real challenge isn't eliminating masculine energy. The challenge is learning how to guide it. Masculine energy needs direction. The difference between power and aggression. Aggression by itself is not strength. Uncontrolled aggression is usually insecurity in disguise. But controlled intensity is something very different. Think about the man who can remain calm in a heated situation. He doesn't explode. He doesn't humiliate others. He simply holds himself steady. That kind of self-control is one of the most powerful masculine traits, because real strength is not about overpowering others. It is about mastering yourself. The man who cannot control himself will eventually damage his relationships. The man who can control himself becomes someone others trust. The confusion around masculinity. One reason many men feel lost today is that they see two extreme models presented to them. On one side, there is the aggressive caricature of masculinity, the man who dominates everyone, the man who constantly boasts, the man who treats others with contempt. On the other side, there is the opposite extreme, the man who is afraid of his own strength, the man who apologizes for existing, the man who suppresses every competitive instinct. Neither of these models is healthy. One is arrogance, the other is avoidance. Like healthy masculinity, exists somewhere in the middle. It is disciplined strength. There are two common traps many men fall into. The first trap is domination, the belief that masculinity means controlling others, boasting about success, and constantly proving superiority. But domination often comes from insecurity. The second trap is suppression, the belief that masculine traits like ambition, competitiveness, and assertiveness must be hidden. But suppressing your nature creates frustration. Healthy masculinity is neither domination nor suppression. It is direction. The goal is not to erase masculine energy. The goal is to guide it towards something meaningful. Strength without discipline becomes destruction. Channeling masculine energy. One of the most important skills a man learns in life is how to channel his intensity. Some men discover this through sports, others through work, others through creativity, writing, building, designing, leading. The outlet matters less than the discipline behind it. A man who pours his competitive drive into something constructive becomes productive. A man who suppresses it becomes restless. A man who misdirects it becomes destructive. So the real question for a man is not, do I have aggressive or competitive tendencies? The real question is, where do I direct them? A small story. Let me tell you about someone we'll call Daniel. Daniel was extremely competitive. Growing up, he hated losing. Board games, sports, arguments, everything felt like a contest. At first, this caused problems. Friends felt he was too intense. Teachers saw him as disruptive. But over time, Daniel discovered something. Competition itself wasn't the issue. The issue was where he directed it, and eventually he channeled that energy into building a company. That same competitive fire that once caused friction became the reason he succeeded. What changed? Direction. A man's intensity can either destroy his life or build it. The difference is direction. Many men feel strong emotions: anger, competition, the urge to win. But those emotions are not the enemy. They are raw energy. When that energy is guided toward mastery, it becomes discipline. When it is guided toward growth, it becomes ambition. When it is guided toward purpose, it becomes leadership. The same energy that creates chaos can also create greatness. The secret is learning where to aim it. Channel your energy or it will control you. The role of self control. Self control is one of the most underestimated masculine virtues. A man who can restrain his impulses is powerful, not because he is passive, but because he is deliberate. He speaks when necessary. He listens when needed. He does not boast about his accomplishments, because confidence rarely needs an audience. When a man constantly advertises his strength, it often reveals insecurity. True confidence is quieter. It is stable. It doesn't require validation every 5 minutes. Respect comes from stability. People naturally respect men who are emotionally steady. Not perfect, but steady. A steady man keeps his word, controls his temper, treats others with dignity, handles success without arrogance. These qualities create trust, and trust creates influence. Influence is often mistaken for dominance, but they are very different things. Dominance demands attention. Influence earns respect. One of the clearest signs of insecurity is constant boasting. When a man repeatedly talks about his wealth, his status, or his conquests, something interesting is happening psychologically. He is trying to convince others. But more importantly, he is trying to convince himself. Real confidence rarely needs to announce itself. A secure man focuses on action rather than display. He builds quietly. He improves steadily. And over time, people notice. Confidence doesn't need an audience. Masculinity and respect. A healthy man does not need to diminish others to feel strong. In fact, respect for others often comes from inner security. A man who respects women does not feel weaker. He feels grounded. A man who supports others does not lose status. He gains credibility, because strength and kindness are not opposites. They are often connected. A man who understands his own power can afford to be generous. Becoming the kind of man you want to be. Ultimately, masculinity is not defined by culture. It is shaped by character. Every man has certain traits inside him: energy, ambition, intensity. The question is not whether those traits exist. The question is how they are used. A man who learns to guide his energy becomes capable. A man who learns self-control becomes respected. A man who develops discipline becomes reliable. And reliability is one of the most powerful masculine qualities. Masculinity is not about dominating others. It is about mastering yourself. A man who cannot control his anger is not powerful. A man who cannot control his ego is not strong. But a man who can guide his impulses, direct his energy, and remain steady under pressure becomes someone people trust. Strength is not loud. Strength is disciplined. Discipline is the foundation of masculinity. Let's close here. Many men today feel uncertain about what masculinity should look like. But perhaps the answer is simpler than it seems. Masculinity is not about performance. It is about direction of energy, direction of ambition, direction of character. When a man learns to guide his own intensity with discipline and purpose, something powerful happens. He becomes someone others can rely on. not because he dominates the world, but because he has learned to master himself. If this conversation resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on where your own energy is being directed. And if you want to keep exploring these conversations about psychology, masculinity, and emotional clarity, stay connected because understanding yourself is one of the most powerful things a man can do.